It looks like the fans aren't the only ones, and the media even too. They're not the only ones that are getting antsy about this Rodgers decision. People within the Steelers organization now are looking for this thing to come to an end here sooner rather than later. And I mean, it's kind of common sense. You would kind of like to know who your quarterback is for the upcoming season as soon as possible, right? So like this isn't like that much of a surprise, but we're being led on that the Steelers are based off not only what we've been hearing in the media, but also Tomlin's comments uh, at the whole like coaches symposium yesterday. That the Steelers are just they're just sitting back, letting Rodgers take his time and everything. But you got Ian Rappaport giving us a little bit of information yesterday, saying that Steelers organization. There's those behind the scenes that are really hoping that Rodgers makes this decision soon. Says, I assume the Steelers would like a decision sooner rather than later. Not I assume. I know several members of the organization have said so. Rapport said on NFL Network's The Insiders earlier today. Even with the rest of the NFL busy handling their own business, Rapport notes the buzz is centered around Rodgers' future. It's been fascinating. You walk around the league meetings, talk to other general managers and coaches. How many different people have said, hey, when's Rodgers going to make his decision? It does seem like it has agitated everyone. All right. You don't get to feel agitated about this. Like anyone but the Steelers, these other 31 teams, like, dude, this is between Rodgers and the Steelers at this point. This has nothing to do with you. So you don't have the right to feel agitated about this. The Steelers are the ones that are offering Rodgers the contract, that are giving him the opportunity to be a starter, not you. So, like, why are you agitated about it? Do you just not like Rodgers? If that's the case, just say that. I mean, there's no reason for any other team, any other organization to feel agitated about this outside of the Steelers. This is between Rodgers and the Steelers. We're leaving it at that. That's how it is right now. But based off of Art Rooney today, because he spoke to the media. Tomlin spoke, Khan spoke, and then Rooney spoke today. Tomlin and Khan spoke, I guess, it was both Monday. Rooney today. You wonder if he's the guy, or at least one of these members of the Steelers organization that Rappaport is talking about, because with some of his quotes today, it seems like he's ready for this thing to wrap up sooner rather than later as well. And he also had positive tones when it came to talking about Rodgers. Like, really not much negative. It's just you could tell he's growing a little bit impatient with the whole thing. So let's read a couple of these tweets from Brooke Pryor. She's already the second on Aaron Rodgers. We keep hearing that he's, I guess, heading in our direction. So that seems to be all signs are positive so far. Again, good, positive vibes, positive energy. He also said that the meeting with Rodgers a couple Fridays ago went very well, and that him and Rodgers were going back and forth about Greenfield, the city of Pittsburgh. Rodgers said he heard a lot about the city and that part of the city, Greenfield, from McCarthy. So they went back and forth about that for a good while. Rooney II also said it was a good sign that Rodgers wanted to throw with DK Metcalf over the weekend. Of course it was, right? Also, Brooke Pryor says, did Art Rooney envision this process with Aaron Rodgers taking so long? Rooney said, no, didn't envision it taking this long. So again, you're seeing positivity surrounding the situation, but also like, okay, this is taking a little bit longer than expected. Hopefully we could get a decision here soon. And that was the next, or at least one of the other questions that was brought up to Rooney. How long are you willing to wait on Rodgers? What's the timeline here? And he says he's willing to wait, but not forever, though. Are you content to wait on Aaron Rodgers? Not forever, but we'll wait a little bit longer. Now, what is a little bit longer? That's the next part of this whole thing. Because a little bit longer, that's vague. Not really a hard deadline there, but it's definitely saying that, come on, bro. It's getting to that point where we're the only option, and what's the holdup? Like everything that's out there, every piece of information that you're looking to gather up to this point, like I don't think there's any other leaf to be turned over, right? Now, according to some, that deadline or that longer, we're willing to wait a little bit longer, could go till like June, July. So you got Pittsburgh insider Jerry Dulac saying that Steelers aren't going to be stressing that much if Rodgers doesn't make it to OTAs. He said on local radio today, I think the Steelers could care less about whether Rodgers comes to OTAs or not. It would be nice if he showed up, but I don't think they're going to lose any sleep if he doesn't come, which, I kind of agree with Dulac here. Listen, if the Steelers aren't going to draft a quarterback in the first round, if they're not set on drafting a quarterback early, then yeah, like why not wait until like June or July if it comes down to that? I don't think it's ultimately going to come down to that. I feel like we're going to get a decision within the next week or so. Like every little checkpoint has been hit along the way throughout this free agency process for Aaron Rodgers. Again, it's a big decision. This is his first time being a free agent in the history of his career. And it's been a natural progression for the most part. It's just not on our timeline. Like we would like to have known a couple weeks ago, right? We would have liked to have known ASAP whether or not Aaron Rodgers is going to be here. But he's taking his due diligence. I get it. It is a really big decision in terms of his career, his legacy, all that stuff. But just think of how it played out. Like he finds out that he's getting cut by the Jets. It was shortly before free agent. It wasn't like months before. It was, I don't know, was it a week? It was days before he was notified by the Jets that they didn't want him back, that they were going to release him. And then you get the tampering period starting up March 10th. He starts to get a feel for the landscape of what teams are interested. He hears the Steelers, it's the Giants. He wants to see if the Vikings are interested. So another week or so goes by. He finds out Vikings are going with J.J. McCarthy for the here and now, at least. Nothing's going to get done anytime soon if Rodgers is to be a Viking. I think the only way it would happen is if McCarthy isn't progressing at the right rate through offseason workouts, training camp, and all that, or he gets hurt. But you're not going to find that out until July, August, preseason, whenever that is. So yeah, Rodgers finds out Vikings aren't interested. Giants, they signed Jameis Winston. They signed Russell Wilson. They're out of it. So it's just the Steelers. He has a meeting with the team a couple Fridays ago. And then another, up to this point, a week or so goes by, and he's thrown with DK Metcalf over the last weekend. Okay, so like we're getting close. We're getting very close, I think, to a decision. I don't think there's many more stones that need to be turned over here or any new information that Rodgers needs for a decision to be made. So, yeah, it should be happening any time now. It should be. I don't think we're going to have to wait until May, until June, until July. But if it does come down to it and we're not going to be drafting a quarterback in the first round, then that's fine too. It's not optimal or anything, but I would rather have Aaron Rodgers stepping in here in June or July than the other options that we're most likely going to have, which would be Mason Rudolph, a third or a fourth round quarterback, Skylar Thompson, or a veteran guy that we sign for something somewhat cheap to be Mason's backup. I think Aaron Rodgers stepping in June or July is still a better option than all that. And it does look like, again, how much you want to believe a Jerry Dulac and what his sources are saying or how he feels about the situation. We could go back and forth on that because he's been wrong in the past for some of this, but he is plugged in to the Steelers organization. Like no one can discount that. But he also did say a couple months ago that he didn't think there was any chance of the Steelers signing Aaron Rodgers. This is when all the options were still on the table. He was like, it's going to be Fields, it's going to be Russ. But a lot of other people were saying that as well. Anyway, he does think that the Steelers are going to be actually, this is not the one that I want to be pulling up right now. This was in his chat script. He does think the Steelers are going to be passing on a quarterback in the first round and is ultimately going to be looking into a quarterback in 2026. Like, this is what he said on the radio today. I think really, and I don't know this, fellas, but the sense I got is that they're all in on a quarterback 2026. They know they have to stop this cycle and go find a guy. And going back to the chat script, when he was asked about who he thinks the Steelers are going to be looking at in round one, can't say definitely because he's not in the draft room, but you can rule out a quarterback in round one. I won't say the same about running back, even though I don't think that will be the case. Yeah, I think at this point, it's D-line and running back. Those are the top two needs. You could say quarterback just because quarterback's the most important position. But you're really saying quarterback if Aaron Rodgers doesn't sign here. But I still think, going back to, what he said about 2026, I think the Steelers also could very much operate in a way where they're going all in with Mason. They're not stressing about drafting a guy early in this upcoming draft to be the next franchise quarterback. They could wait a year, maybe draft a guy in the third or fourth round to compete with Mason, whatever. And if it doesn't work out, we know our answer 2026. We do go all in at quarterback position as the draft is being held in the city of Pittsburgh. So, yeah, it would be kind of a cool little storyline. Honestly, here's the thing. I was going to say, here's the thing. Hopefully everything just works out next year, right? No matter who the quarterback is, we make the playoffs, go on a deep playoff run, and we could either rock with Mason for the foreseeable future, or we could re-sign Rodgers for another year because he did so good for us. Like, that's the optimal scenario. But if it does get to the point where we do have to be looking for a guy in 2026, that it is a kind of a cool storyline, given the draft's going to be in Pittsburgh. We could draft the quarterback. They could walk up on the stage in the city that they're being picked to, and hopefully we'll be the franchise quarterback for. But yeah, this is kind of where we're at with the Rodgers updates. Nothing crazy new. It's just that we got the actual Steelers owner, Art Rooney II, talking about the situation. And you could tell, again, by his quotes, that he's ready for this thing to come to a conclusion sooner rather than later. But positive. I think for the most part, the general vibe I got was he's positive about this. And that's what I got from Mike Tomlin, too, when he was talking about it. That's what I got from Omar Khan as well with him. Like, they're willing to wait. Like, they understand the situation that Rodgers is in here. They understand his cachet, who he is, what he means to the league and all that, and just where he's at in life with this decision. 41 years old, 4-time MVP. He knows he only probably got another year or two left. So it's like, yeah, we could chill back, man. We could chill. We could let you take your time in this case. We don't got to be pressing you for this answer because we're not going anywhere. We obviously have shown that you've been a top priority for us through free agency. We bypassed on giving Fields a lucrative contract. We didn't give Darnold anything crazy. We let him go to Seattle. Russ, obviously we weren't really that serious about bringing him back either. So, this is where we're at. We got Mason as the backup plan. Just let us know. Let us know when you're ready. What's that deadline, though? It's a very vague deadline. Very vague deadline. Rooney says we're willing to wait. Not forever, though. Tomlin, whenever he was giving his interview yesterday, didn't put a hard deadline on it either. He was like, I'd like to think May we'll have an answer. But then he was like, yeah, I don't think there's anything that we have to worry about or concern ourselves with that Rodgers will be missing out on before July or training camp anyway. So, he kind of left that open-ended too, that this could take a couple months if Rodgers lets it, because we're going to let it too. We're not going to be stressing about a decision one way or another either. Now, a lot of this I think a lot of this does hinder or is determined on what we do in the draft too. Like, if we're seriously not going to be drafting a quarterback in the first round, then yeah, I think that timeline, that deadline, it can go on for months. But if we draft Jackson Dart, Shador Sanders falls to us, then it's like, yeah, I think we kind of started to look past Rodgers there. We kind of in a way set our deadline with the draft by taking a quarterback early. But if not, and we take a dude in the third or fourth round, we get Quinn Ewers in here. We get a Jalen Milroe in the third. I still think the Steelers are very open for business with an Aaron Rodgers, because I still think Aaron Rodgers is a better option than what that quarterback room is going to look like June, July, even if we know that those quarterbacks have been on the team for the last couple of months and have taken part in OTAs and all that. Aaron Rodgers just coming off his couch, still better option. Now, you could argue too, Aaron Rodgers coming off of his couch, still better option than a Shador Sanders or Jackson Dart with Mason Rudolph in that quarterback room. But investing that first round pick, I think that says a little bit more. Like there's a little bit more weight to that than just drafting a guy in the third or fourth round, knowing that, yeah, that's probably going to be the backup for this year, maybe the next year or two. Whereas you draft a guy in the first round, you're looking at that guy potentially being the starter for you, like serious competition. Like you're giving him a serious look to be the guy for week one. But yeah, that's where we're at with Rodgers. That's where we're at. And we put ourselves in this spot. I don't think it's a bad spot to be in, really. You got Mason here on a cheap contract. He's locked in. You have flexibility to sign Rodgers, and you wouldn't even be giving up a comp pick when you do sign him because he was released by the Jets, which is a little cool factor at play here, which I'm telling you, it had to have been something that Con was considering when looking at all the quarterback options this free agency, and the decision to ultimately let Fields go to the Jets and Russ go to the Giants. We pick up those comp picks. Rodgers is chilling out there, and we don't have to give up a comp pick to get him. Like, there's no canceling out if we sign Rodgers. That I guarantee you that was part of the equation here. Because, bro, you could argue Rodgers just flat out is going to be the better option over Fields or Russell Wilson to give us a chance to win a championship next year. Just flat out. No contracts involved, none of that. Just for 1 year, Aaron Rodgers, the chances that he could return to being like a top 10 quarterback with how he finished the 2024 season, I think, yeah, it's more likely than Russ doing better than Rodgers. I think it's more likely than Fields doing better than Rodgers, and Fields developing and turning into elite quarterback for a full 17-game sample. I think just Rodgers turning into a version of Rodgers again, vintage Rodgers again, is a higher likelihood. Again, that's just without contract. That's without anything. But then you add to the fact that we get a third or a fourth round pick for Justin Fields and a fifth round pick, potentially a third round pick for Russell Wilson not being here, and us having Rodgers. I mean, it almost feels like a no-brainer, no? And we still have flexibility for our future quarterback, even with Rodgers being here, whether we draft a guy in the third or fourth, have him wait in the wings this year, or we go all in next year. And that's even with Rodgers potentially coming back. Rodgers could be back for a second year, and we still draft the guy, sits behind Rodgers for a season, and then they're taking over from there. I kind of like the spot we're in. I kind of do. Not going to front. I like the changes. I like the moves that we've made thus far this offseason. I really do. So that's that. Yeah, I think we'll close out the show there. Yeah, not much more to say. It's just this is where we're at. Aaron Rodgers watch. I'll talk Steelers over under tomorrow. There was an initial line put out. I'll go over that. We'll see if there's any new information with Rodgers. Maybe we'll talk some mock drafts. We'll go through some draft prospects or something like that. But yeah, I'll be back tomorrow, 6 p.m. per usual. Hope you guys enjoyed. Stay chilling. Here we go, Steelers. Peace.